people should think about. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies!
Hey! Look at this guy testing positive for COVID and still in the room. Look at him. Oh, yeah, there it is. Get it out. Get it out, McClung.
What is he drinking? Chocolate milk? That can't help. That
It's
cannot
coffee.
help. Oh,
It's coffee.
All right.
Still probably not helping, but it's coffee.
Not
This is
helping.
what I've never had chocolate milk. You've asked that for 3 years. It's never been chocolate milk.
It's because I don't drink coffee, so I don't go to that place in my head. But it's a fair point. It's a fair point. Looks like coffee, good stuff. But we're all glad to see you back. Certainly, the Geek Buddies universe is glad to see you back, Shannon. A lot of people sending you love on social media and giving you love. And glad you're bouncing back here from COVID. Not fully negative, but you're almost there. You're very close to the finish line for sure.
God, I
But
hope
right
so.
now, what's that?
God, I hope so.
I think so. You might be. Hold on. Let me turn off.
Hold on,
this
that's my
phone
doctor
here. There's
calling.
a lot of people. The same number's been calling me all morning. I answered the phone the first time, and the person said, blah, 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 insurance. And I go, I have no idea who you are and what you're calling about, for God's sakes. And he goes, oh, probably wrong number. Great. And then he just called back now 20 times over the last hour. So I have no idea who this nutbird is, but I am not going to answer the phone. You can leave a message. All right. But anyway, we are here to talk about so many things in the world of geekdom. But let's introduce ourselves first. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Outlaw Nation and the Geek Buddies. Mikey.
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies and the healthiest member of the Geek Buddies, thanks to my good friends at Carbon Health.
Which we'll get to in just a second. Shannon.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm a television actor and an animation writer where you can see some of our latest work on Netflix right now with Strawberry Shortcake, Barry in the Big City Season 2. And actually, if you go to YouTube, our episode that dropped this past weekend was one of mine, and it's truly one of my favorites, called Mission Unfrostable.
Yep.
Sounds like it's connected to Mission Impossible.
It was Shannon saying, "Can I do an Ocean's 11 style heist for a Christmas episode?" And I said, "I don't know, can you?" And then he did. And it was pretty fantastic. So it's a good one.
Nice.
Just barely. You learn a lot about how much stuff you can cram into a 4.5 minute short.
But I do think in some small way this is preparing you to be a content creator on your own, Shannon, in the future. If you can do 4-minute videos, bro, you've already win it. You're already a step ahead of a lot of people trying to create stuff on YouTube and what have you.
Well, I truly can only do it because of that gentleman right there.
Oh, fair enough.
He's in charge of taking my insanity and focusing it and streamlining it.
I'm the one that makes sure it makes it to the 4-minute mark.
That does not surprise me. Anyway, all right, big shout out to Carbon Health, who continues to power and sponsor us here as we go into the holiday season. Well, we're in the midst of the holiday season, but as we go into 2023 as well, Carbon Health staying on to support us and power and sponsor us here. So do us a favor, head on over to carbonhealth.com and get checked out today. Maybe you got COVID. It's still going around, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe you test positive. You want to get tested. You're not feeling so well. You can do that at COVID. Maybe you can slip on some ice and fall on your ass. Got to get that taken a look at. Maybe an icicle goes into your eye. You never know what can happen out there in the winter wonderland of holiday season. So make sure you have the Carbon Health website available to you, or download the app to have a doc in your pocket for any of those situations that pop up.
You really took Violent Night to heart when you saw it, didn't you?
It's such a good movie. My God. Please, I'd love to have that magic bag. Anyway, we're gonna jump into a bunch of geek stuff. This is the way the show works. Each of us brings up a geek news item, then we take a break and we jump into our main topic. And how can our main topic not be all the madness that is going on over at DC now? As if there wasn't maddening enough for the last few years, somehow we've crossed the Rubicon to a whole new level of this is Punch Out when you're facing the last person. I think right now it's the level of madness that's going on DC. So we're going to talk about all of that. But Mikey, you start us off here. What do we got? We want to Pandora.
Yeah, guys, it is finally here. Avatar 2, The Way of Water, this weekend in theaters everywhere. We've talked about it. We've discussed it.
Yes.
We've debated it. It is here. And the premiere was just a couple nights ago. Critics have been seeing it. I know Johnny saw it last week along with a lot of people. First reactions came out. We talked about those. First reactions really positive. So now full reviews are coming in. I'm not going to tell you what's in those reviews because I am avoiding them because I don't want to be spoiled. But it is sitting pretty at 83% on Rotten Tomatoes as far as critics go. Audience score obviously not there yet. And overall, the consensus seems to be this is a visual feast like no other. The time that James Cameron waited till he could do the things that he wanted to do apparently paid off. People are saying it is like nothing they have ever seen on film. They don't understand how he did some of the things he did. So if what you are excited about is the visual feast of Pandora, you are not going to be disappointed. Seems to be a little bit split on story, writing. Some people feel like the story is still a little flat. Seems to be a consistent complaint of a lot of James Cameron's work, that not the most inspired script, but some people are saying that the story packs a pretty heavy emotional punch, including our outlaw right here. So overall, even though it's not, what movie is 100% loved, it's doing pretty high. And I think we should expect, I'm not gonna give an exact number, but as we said last week when we were talking about it with Christian, I'm pretty sure this thing's gonna deliver above expectations with its box office next weekend. What do you guys think? John, what do you think, having seen it? And Shannon, has this changed your excitement level for Pandora?
Yeah, Shannon, do you want to go first?
Sure. Look, I mean, I think if anything, it's changed my excitement level in that there's not a whole lot else in theaters right now. But in between Black Panther and this, there's kind of been a bit of a desert. Now, we've had some dramas like Vogel and I went to go see The Fabelmans a couple weeks ago.
I haven't heard a review from either of you about that movie.
I mean, it's like
one-liner.
It was a movie. It was. There's some very good parts in it.
Okay.
Everything is inherently
watchable. Like a positive reaction. Okay.
Well, I mean, it's not a negative reaction.
Okay.
It is a reaction. It is a movie that was made by Steven Spielberg that I went and saw with my friend Mike Vogel.
Okay.
I can see how that doesn't sound negative.
There's some nice work in it, but overall, like when you look back at the catalog of Spielberg films that I will revisit again and again, The Fabelmans probably, won't be on that list. But like I actually started watching, when I've, been at home here, I turned on the first Avatar after all of the the reviews, because like Vogel, I haven't read any of the reviews. I've read a lot of headlines. Right. But I turned it on after the views started rolling in, and I didn't finish it. I mean, I got about halfway through.
Oh,
and
okay.
But it also could be a thing that when I saw it in the theater, it was a magical experience because it was just so big and it was technology like we hadn't seen before. By now, 2009's Avatar, like the technology has kind of caught up at this point. And the story itself did not really draw me into it, that I needed to sit down and finish it. Everyone's saying that it's a visual feast for the eyes. That is not a surprise. But I'm excited for the in-theater experience of seeing the movie. And I don't know how much the ticket price was, but based off of how many minutes it is, I mean, we're getting a lot of bang for our buck.
Yeah, it's 3 hours and 10 minutes, and it is 3 hours and 10 minutes. But I will tell you this, although there's a lot of water, I didn't feel like peeing the whole time I was watching the movie. I was so transfixed by what I watched. And of course, I released my non-spoiler review yesterday. I went in, you guys know, I went in a little doubting. Eyebrow raised, arms folded a little bit, wondering if this is really going to be a good movie. And when it was over, I was absolutely awestruck by what I'd witnessed. And I watched it in a 3D and IMAX, and it really was a surreal experience. It is one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life in terms of the technical achievement, but not just that. And I've seen a lot of people push back on the story or saying no one's mentioning the story. Well, clip this out. The story is fantastic and touching and moving. And I connected to all the characters in ways that I didn't connect to them in the first Avatar. So I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it. And the young story. Sometimes when it's young adult stuff, I go, oh, okay, we got to deal with this stuff. It was actually really cool and really well done. And each of the characters has a journey they're going on, and you connect to them along with all the new characters that come in to be the new tribe here. And, Kate Winslet, Cliff Curtis all do incredible work. Zoe and Sam all do fantastic work. And Cameron, I mean, if you're going to wait, and I said this in my review or my reaction, if the man's going to take a while to cook the dinner, have faith that the dinner is going to be good, because the last time you've been at the restaurant, the dinner was pretty good. So although it's been a while since you opened the restaurant, it's open again. And it's okay if you have to wait a little bit to eat the meal, because the meal is going to be damn worth it. And that's the way I feel about the movie. I mean, no one was more surprised how much I loved it. I wanted to go back into the theater after it was over and sit there for another 3 hours and watch it again. It's that good. I will go see it this weekend a couple of times on Screen X and then whatever version they've got there to see it in. So, I think.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say real quick, the box office, they're predicting now 525 million globally with about 170. I think it's going to break all those expectations. I think people are going to go in mass, in large numbers to be entertained by this film. And I think it's better than Avatar. So that's why I think even the people who are skeptics will go and see it multiple times, along with the people who are already on board loving the first Avatar.
I mean, look, I was talking to one of our friends who can't make it when I go to see it on Friday.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, I'm sure I'll want to see it again just based on what everyone's saying. Let's go Sunday night. And we looked to go buy tickets on Sunday night in IMAX and couldn't get it anywhere. So it's going to be interesting to see. Look, I'm the opposite of you two. I love Avatar. I don't give a shit what anybody says. Y'all can make fun of me all you want. I like Ferngully. I like the Smurfs. I like Dances with Wolves. I even like Pocahontas, depending on the day. Hey. I love this movie. So I watched it last week, and I watched the whole thing. Yes. And my brother came in halfway through, sat down and watched the rest of it, looked at me and goes, how can anybody not like this movie? This is fucking great. And I'm like, I know. So given that that's how I feel about the first Avatar, right? I think I am set up to have a fantastic weekend at the movies, and I can't wait to tell y'all all about it.
Yeah, I think we should do a review, to be honest with you. It'd be fun to do a review if we have time this weekend. If, Shannon, you're feeling better, you can really go see the movie. I think it'd be fun for the three of us to break it down and talk about it. Because
you'll talk about how much you loved it. I'll talk about how much I loved it. And Shannon will say, I saw a movie in a theater.
To talk about it. But yeah, so that's coming out this weekend, and already there are, Thursday night screenings available. So I would encourage all of you, as Michael just said, like, go get your tickets now. Get your tickets. Don't hesitate. This one is going to be a lot of people are going to see this thing over and over and over again to enjoy it. Plus, I think we love, like we saw with Top Gun Maverick. You can talk about COVID all you want. If a movie makes people feel good and they are so thoroughly entertained, they will come back and watch it over and over again, because the world's crazy out there. People want to go and escape to a theater and escape into another world. And I think what Cameron did here in expanding the world of Pandora without losing what we had already discovered or had in Pandora before, I think is an incredible achievement. And damn, the man can cook. That's for sure. All right. Well, there you go. That's our answers for all that. Anything more to add to that, Michael?
I'm just trying to think of the dishes at the James Cameron restaurant right now, and I'm just really entertaining myself in my own head with the Terminator tortellini. I'm just going down the list of like, what all would he serve at that restaurant? So
the Navi nibbles.
There it is. I was going to say, Shannon will have a list by the end of this episode.
Hey, if anybody watching wants to put your suggestions for a James Cameron restaurant menu, I think we'd love to read them for sure. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll jump into the Critics' Choice nominations, have a conversation about that, what it might mean for the Oscars here right after this. Oh, sorry, Shannon. You're a little slow on the draw there. I thought we were. Sorry about
you're right.
That. It's COVID. I get it. I apologize. Next time I'll wait a little bit and we'll jump into it for sure. But let's get into this. Critics' Choice nominations were dropped today. I already did a Golden Globes thing with Jeff Snyder on the hot mic that we dropped yesterday. You can watch us battle that out. But Critics' Choice dropped 14 nominations for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And that was followed by the film that was a film, I guess, according to Shannon McClung, and The Fabelmans getting 11 nominations, including supporting actor nods for Paul Dano and Judd Hirsch. Babylon picked up 10 nominations, and the Banshees of Inisherin, which led the Golden Globe nominations, they picked up 9 nominations for sure. And in the Best Picture category, we've got Everything Everywhere All at Once, Avatar, The Way of Water, which you just talked about, Babylon, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, The Fabelmans, Glass Onion snuck in there, Triple R, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, and Women Talking. So that's a lot of selections there for Best Picture. And except for Joseph Kosinski and Ryan Johnson for Top Gun and Glass Onion, respectively, the 9 other feature film directors were among the 10 nominees, including Gina Prince Bythewood for The Woman King, which I could probably pull out 2 or 3 movies and put The Woman King above. And I feel like that film should have been nominated for Best Picture for sure. Best Actor, you've got Austin Butler, Tom Cruise, Colin Farrell, Brendan Fraser, Paul Mescal, and Bill Nighy. Best Actress, Cate Blanchett, Viola Davis, Danielle Deadwyler for Till, Margot Robbie, Michelle Williams, Michelle Yeoh, and then the rest of the categories going down the list there. So, gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this? Do you guys still remember Everything Everywhere All at Once? Do you like the number of nominations it's getting here on Critics' Choice? Didn't quite kill it on Golden Globe. So, as you balance both of these 2 lists out, what occurs to you guys as we're heading towards the Oscars here?
Everything Everywhere All at Once, the first time I saw that, I was blown away by that. Just such an incredible movie. And the second time I saw it, I wasn't as taken with it because I think, I can be a little bit more of a vanilla moviegoer. And some of the broader choices, I was like, because then you start to watch it with your writer brain. I don't know if I would have gone that far. I would have dialed this back a little bit. But the fact that so much of this, that it was recognized so much on a critical level, even though it didn't check off all the boxes for me, I love the fact that critics kind of, the snooty elite are kind of embracing it, that this is sort of a new type of filmmaker. And I love the fact that it is being embraced on that critical level as well as by audiences. And I mean, aside from the fact that they brought back Kiwi Kwan and he's getting a Best Supporting Actor nomination, I'm like, oh man, that's fantastic. The Fabelmans, I don't know. I feel like that's a very safe critical pick. I would not dispute any of the acting nominations that it got, especially Judd Hirsch. Even though he's not in the movie very much. I mean, when he is in it, it is just he's fantastic.
Is he pulling a Judi Dench where it's like 8 minutes of the movie tops?
Yeah,
it might be 8 minutes. It might be 8-10 minutes, but his presence is so essential to the story, and just his performance just knocks it out of the park. Again, with the Fabelmans, all the individual scenes, everything's great. You just kind of get to the end of it and was like, okay. It was stuff that happened. Right. I mean, the fact that, again, even though I haven't been the most excited for Avatar, again, the fact that it is being recognized, like we're starting to get more recognition for this type of movie. The fact that Angela Bassett just got the first nomination for Golden Globes. I don't know if she got nominated for Critics' Choice.
I think she did for both.
Yeah.
Didn't she?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's Marvel Studios' first acting nomination, if I'm correct.
Right.
So I mean, there's so much of this stuff that I did like. The Banshees of Inisherin, I thought was a wonderful, wonderful film. Elvis, I wasn't quite as taken with.
What? Oh, okay.
And I don't understand how Glass Onion gets nominated for Best Picture and Best Screenplay and not Best Director.
That's kind of weird.
That's kind of wild to me.
Every time that happens, that's always a head scratcher. It's happened before. I think it happened last year. Like, never makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he was the driving creative force behind the movie, and it's like 2 out of 3. It's like, okay. But yeah, overall, I think the big shocks for me were Everything Everywhere All at Once. Just the fact that they are taking that leap and embracing some of these more kind of, wilder type films.
Yeah. And real quick, Mike, on the TV side, Abbott Elementary leading the way, just like they did with Golden Globes. And if you guys aren't watching Abbott Elementary, I cannot encourage you enough to watch the show. It is a really sweet show, a good show, that tackles some interesting topics in ways that are a little bit more accessible than you might see in other shows. So, Michael, your thoughts here on the nominations overall and what you think it might indicate as we're heading closer to the Oscars here.
Well, just echo what you say about Abbott Elementary. That show is so sweet and so goddamn funny.
Yeah.
Just floors you constantly with how funny in it, and in a way that like it feels simple.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as a negative. Like sometimes you watch a show and it just feels like everything is so effortless.
Yeah.
And it's not. They worked really hard to make it come across that way, but it feels like it is just a breath of fresh air show. Just makes you feel great every time you watch it. Look, I think when Everything Everywhere All at Once came out at the beginning of the year, I came out of that movie blown away.
Yeah.
I still think it's the best movie of the year. It's maybe one of the best movies I've ever seen. I love it. And the more that I watch it, the more that I love it. The more that I watch it, I'm just like fascinated by how they managed to be so weird and out there, but tell such a grounded and emotional story.
Yeah.
And I said, when we got out of the theater, I was like, I think this is the best. I think this will probably be the best movie of the year. And I'm really worried because I think by the time we get to awards season, people will have forgotten about it. Yeah. So I'm actually just thrilled that people clearly didn't forget about it. There have been a lot of great movies. There's been a lot of great performances, and the fact that it's being recognized, like I think Everything Everywhere All at Once is absolutely going to get nominated for Best Picture. It'll be interesting to see what else it gets nominated for, and I haven't seen every movie yet. I haven't seen The Banshees of Inisherin yet, which I'm really intrigued to see, but I'm pretty much banking on the fact that Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to remain my top movie. I think Glass Onion, Rian Johnson aside, that issue aside, I'm kind of pleasantly surprised that it's getting the recognition. Given that it's kind of moved over to being a Netflix movie. It was only in theaters for that one for Thanksgiving, and then it's just going to be a Netflix movie. I think that the fact that it is so good and delivers so much, for a sequel. It's like that's the thing. Like Knives Out came out and it was so original and it was so inventive and it absolutely deserved all of the acclaim that it got. But when you make a sequel to a movie, for that to be as good as the first movie, if not better, and to be nominated for awards, like that's really impressive. So that's huge. Echoing what Shannon said, the Angela Bassett of it all, love it. First of all, she literally owns that movie. So I think it's a really well-deserved nomination, and I do think it's great that a Marvel movie is getting an acting nom. Like I think that's really great. I think for the first time ever, we have, I think it's in the Golden Globes, but in the Best Animation category, we've actually got a really intense race. Usually it's like, okay, well, what's the Disney Pixar movie that's going to win? And I don't think that's what's going to happen this year. So I think with Marcel the Shell and with Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, like I think that there's a really interesting animation race this year. So all in all, most of the time when we get to awards season, when the awards start coming out, it's like these handful of movies and you're kind of like, okay, let's see. Or it's like the movies that you're like, all right, I'm going to go see all these movies, but these aren't like the biggest movies of the year. And this is a very popular award season as far as like the movies that are getting nominated. So I think it's going to be an interesting ride. I think that we're likely going to see ratings go up for a lot of the award shows because of that. And there'll be a ton of articles written about that. All in all, I'm really intrigued by this year's slate of films and nominations thus far.
Yeah, when you look, Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is one of the greatest pieces of animation I've ever seen in my life. It's really just, I can't stress it enough for people who are watching.
If only I didn't hate the songs.
What?
Had this whole conversation with somebody last night at dinner. Oh, no. I think it is gorgeous.
Good afternoon, Mr. Vogel.
It is good. Oh, how dare you, sir? Yeah, it's everything about Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio is amazing, except those fucking songs.
I love those songs. Oh well. It's just a great category you bring up, Mike. Certainly, del Toro's Pinocchio, Marcel the Shell with the Shoes On, which I've seen twice, is so good. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish I'll be watching on Monday, and then Turning Red, which was great, and Wendell and Wild, which I haven't watched, but I gotta watch that one because it kind of reminds me a little bit like Mitchell and the Machines. I don't mean in the fact that it's the same movie. I mean the fact that it's Netflix animated and a lot of people buzz behind, kind of like Klaus, when Klaus was nominated as well a few years ago, which I thought was great. And I've got to watch that. I haven't put that on my Christmas watch list.
Oh, it's on my, that is a every Christmas movie watch now.
Yeah. I have to, I'm starting next week. I'm just going to watch everything and enjoy myself. I'm taking the fucking week. I'm pre-recording stuff and taking a week off, man. But I'm really surprised The Whale wasn't nominated for Best Picture, considering, how much buzz that film had gotten coming out of the festivals, how much buzz Brendan Fraser's performance had gotten. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It spoke to me on so many levels. So I'm just really shocked that it didn't make the final list here. And also, I have to say, if you're going to give James Cameron a nomination, I think it's insulting that you don't give Joseph Kosinski a nomination. If you think it's easy to direct a sequel to a movie from 30 years ago, from the 1980s, and bring new heart, new levels, new life, new love, new special effects, new awesome action sequences with the fighter jets, and to get Tom Cruise to deliver what is a Critics' Choice nominated performance, I think is such an insult to what he did with that film. This is not one of those films that, good job. It was a really well-directed film with a lot of pathos, a journey for this character that was real and lived in and honest. And it was surprisingly good. And it made $1.5 billion. And that tells you things that this appealed to a number of quadrants. And I think leaving him off is a bit of an insult to him as the director of that film, because they just default to, it's an action movie. It's so much more than that. And I think that's something that I would ding the Critics' Choice on for not including him for sure.
Well, and before we move on, I mean, because, I know we didn't talk a ton about TV outside of Abbott Elementary, but Andor.
Yes.
Andor got nominated for Best Drama, and Diego Luna got nominated for Best Actor. And as thrilled as I am with both of those, I do think Andy Serkis got done dirty not getting nominated for Best Supporting Actor. And like the people that they did nominate for Best Supporting Actor, who were all really, really good, I would put Andy Serkis's performance up against any one of them, and that's no disrespect to those nominees because all their work is fantastic. But Andy Serkis was just so good, and I think for a lot of people that was the turning point of the series. Like, we liked it, and then we loved it.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to take somebody off. Maybe Emerson for Evil. I don't know. I mean, Emerson is such a good actor, though. How do you take him off? Or Brower for The Good Fight. Maybe, I don't know, but yeah. I agree with you. I think Circus should have been in that for sure. But that's the problem. Sometimes people see it as kind of, it's a Star Wars show. I don't have to think about it.
I think the overall vibe that I'm getting, and it'll be interesting to see the Oscars nominations when they come out, is that it does seem like that whole, this is a popular movie, this is an Oscar-worthy movie, does seem to be shifting a little bit.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's also because the genre films are raising their game. Andor raises the game for a Star Wars TV show.
100%.
Absolutely. 100%. Ryan Coogler, what he did in Black Panther, and even though it's not perfect, what he did in Wakanda Forever, he raised the bar of what a Marvel superhero movie could be. So I think that we're seeing two things, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, to Shannon's point, as weird and out there as it is. It has some shit to say about the world. So I think that we're using genre storytelling, we're using fantasy, we're using sci-fi, we're using these huge brands that we love. For those of us that have always loved them, we've always found a lot of meaning and a lot of importance to them. But some really, really talented people in front of the camera and behind the camera are elevating the storytelling of those stories. So I think that's part of it.
Yeah, 100% agree. I wonder at what point. Yeah, I mean, because I've got to finish watching Tar. I got to watch Women Talking, which I haven't watched yet. I do have to watch Fabelmans. I'll honestly admit that I haven't watched that. Nothing about that attracts me to watch it, so I have delayed in watching that. Well,
hopefully Shannon's stellar review will get you to pop it on as soon as this is over.
But another one that's missing here is She Said, which I thought was fantastic, and I think it's in my personal top 10. I'm going to be doing a top 10 next week of 2022, and certainly I put She Said in my top 10. I think it was incredibly well directed, incredibly well acted, and I'm really surprised to see nobody involved with that nominated for the acting or directing award. So
the interesting thing was She Said, and because my wife and I went and saw it a couple of weeks ago, and like we both enjoyed it. Like, we both thought it was really, really well done. But I feel like the comparisons to Spotlight are kind of inevitable. And so then we watched Spotlight the next night, and it's like Spotlight is. This is not to take anything away from She Said, but I thought Spotlight was just a better. It was just a better movie, and I feel like because Spotlight was recent enough, it's like this. Not a retread because that no disrespect to the events that inspired the film.
Yeah.
But it's like I think in the shadow of Spotlight, She Said just doesn't stand out enough.
That might be fair because I think that's what killed Rocket Man. The fact that it was in the shadow of Bohemian Rhapsody. And I think Rocket Man is a much better film than Bohemian Rhapsody. And I think Egerton did a better job than Rami Malek did in Bohemian Rhapsody with what he was doing in that film. So neither the film nor him got that much love. Or Dexter Fletcher, who directed it as well. And I think Dexter directed half of Bohemian after what's his face slid off of it. So yeah, these are the things that you kind of, you're right, Shannon. You kind of can be bit by, unfortunately, as these awards roll on. But I mean, I loved She Said. I honestly think I loved it from top to bottom, man. And it was really chilling and unsettling when they're playing that audio as they're going down the hallway. I mean, fuck, that was one of the most unsettling things to see in a movie. Anyway, we'll see what happens with the Critics' Choice and the Golden Globes. Those are all happening here in the next few months, these awards. And of course, Oscar nominations are around the corner. I'm sure the three of us will have something to say about that as well as they come along. But let's take a break here before we jump into some trailers here from Shannon McClung.
All right, Shannon, you've been gone. We've missed it. Shannon. Give it to us. Say it.
It is time for trailers.
There it is.
Sorry.
And a coughing fit to follow. It's not quite there, folks. He's not all the way there yet. He's almost there.
Pushed a little too hard.
Trailers.
So this week we have 3 trailers for 3 big screen endeavors, 3 exciting films. We'll start off with our first look at Scream 6.
Yeah.
So we pick up with the survivors from the last Scream, which was Jenna Ortega, Melissa Barrera, and Jasmine Savoy Brown. They are changing the location. They're going to a big city. I believe it's New York in this one.
It is New York City, yeah.
And it seems to be set around Halloween, which I think is a first for this franchise. Now, coming out of the last Scream, which I was not the biggest fan of, but I certainly enjoyed those 2 filmmakers and their work in, oh my gosh, the movie Ready or Not. Yes. Yeah. I thought there was enough. There were enough surprises in that last Scream film that I'm definitely gonna go and check this one out. But we get a nice quick teaser. We see our three heroines on a subway, and everyone's in costume, and we see a ghost face killer, and we see them getting closer and closer and closer. Very well done trailer, very well cut. So gentlemen, I'll throw to you. What do you think of our first look at Scream 6?
Yeah, I put up my trailer reaction earlier today. I thought it was great. A lot of fun. 1 minute. I liked the last installment, and I'm not the biggest Scream guy. So I liked where they went. I liked bringing in Jenna Ortega, giving us a little taste before Wednesday. I liked that we had, some Latino leads in this. This was really cool. And I like what happened with Dewey, to be honest with you. I was like, this is gutsy. I appreciate this. A little bit of guts for it. But now we get this trailer, and this is really great because, look, it's not the first horror franchise to go to New York. Hello, Jason Diggs, Manhattan. So I thought it was smart to kind of, for those who are horror fans, to go like, oh shit, New York City. Yeah, let's go. Let's see what's here. But what a great teaser. What does New York feel like? Essentially, it feels like you're living in a subway train with everybody around you invading your space. And you feel like death is around the corner. A lot of people feel that way about living in New York. You got to be super.
I feel like that gives us a window onto how you feel about New York.
No,
I don't know that I would say
all
that's
live
how everybody
in the
feels.
sweetness of the world. Some of us live in the reality, and so this is how it feels for a lot of people in New York: the fear, the danger, all that kind of stuff. And not all of us live in the brownstones, Mikey. So this kind of thing you see going on. So I like that they gave you that vibe as you're watching it. Plus, it was really smart to put all these people who are evoking other horror franchises. You had a Babadook in there. Like, it was great to see that as kind of a nice wink and a nod. Maybe it's a Halloween thing. So that's why they're all dressed up as killers in that train. So just really smart the way it went down and the way it ended as he was getting closer and closer and closer there and then attacking somebody. So good teaser trailer. Gets you excited. Let's go. It's only, 3 months away? So, Mikey, your thoughts?
I mean, I love the Scream franchise. even when it's bad, I kind of love it. Like when Scream 5 came out, I kind of just did a rewatch of I didn't rewatch 1 because I've literally watched Scream 1 so many times, but I did a 2, 3, 4. And you know what? It's just it's even when it's not at its best, it has that self-referential quality that's part of the DNA of the Scream franchise that always is a lot of fun.
Right.
Even Scream 3, which is arguably the worst of the Scream movies, has Parker Posey and Courtney Cox kind of trying to out Gale Weathers each other, which is literally one of my favorite things about the entire Scream franchise, even though that movie's ridiculous. I think this movie looks like I think Scream 5 did this really great job of sort of breathing new life into the franchise, kind of giving us a new generation of characters, a new way to talk about the self-referential nature of things. I think it's smart to go out of Woodsboro. I think going to New York kind of it's like, oh, this is new, this is interesting. Where are we going to go? And and this was sort of announced really quickly after the last movie came out. I think it's really interesting that Hayden Panettiere is going to be in this movie. Like we all thought that she died in Scream 4, and then Scream 5 in the background you heard that there was a survivor, and we found out that it was her. And so the fact that she is somehow a part of this story is great. And I just love that Scream is ultimately always like a really fun whodunit. As opposed to other horror franchises where it's like, all right, well, Michael Myers is back. He's upset again. Jason is back, whatever. Scream is always like, well, there's some kind of twist to the self-referential nature, and everybody is the suspect. So when you look at this cast, like that's a pretty fun stacked cast of people, including Hayden Panettiere's character Kirby coming back. It's it's a fun sort of like, it's a whodunit, self-referential, meta, horror, slasher. Like it's just fun. I'm on board. I can't wait.
Okay.
And we have some fun new cast members with Samara Weaving, who, with the lead from Ready or Not.
Yes.
We have Josh Segarra, who, we just watched in She-Hulk, Tony Revolori from the Spider-Man franchise, as well as Willow, and Dermot Mulroney. So Scream 6 comes out on March 10th, 2023. And our next trailer is one that is super, super cool. And this one is called 65. This is from the writers making, I believe, their directorial debut from A Quiet Place, Scott Beck and Brian Woods, starring Adam Driver. And it's essentially really, really good trailer, really, really smart. Gave away a lot of the movie, but starts off with a starship crashing on a planet. This pilot who's transporting 35 passengers, and we come to find out they're on an alien world where they're not alone. And it turns out the aliens that are on that planet are dinosaurs. They seem to have crashed in Earth's past. So we come to find out that maybe this is where humans sprang from, is from this dude crashing. I thought this looked super cool, even though, again, it gives away a lot in the trailer. But gentlemen, what did you think of our first look at 65?
Mike?
I mean, it's a great trailer. It's a great idea. Like, we've had our fair share of dinosaurs coming back to life in modern day and running around cities and inexplicably doing stupid things because the Jurassic World franchise is ridiculous. But this whole idea of being tossed back to their time with modern day or futuristic technology, I mean, this is just like, what if you had a spaceship and space lasers and you fought dinosaurs? And you're like, well, let's make a movie. I'm not with Shannon on it gave away a lot of the movie. Like, we know they crash land on a planet. I don't know how you do a trailer that says, we crash landed on a planet, it's a dinosaur planet. There's, that's all we really know. I have a feeling that there's going to be some twists and turns to this that are going to be a little bit surprising. And just seeing Adam Driver, just, he doesn't have a lightsaber, but he's in a sci-fi movie. So he's back. He's back in Ben Solo territory. So I'm excited about it. I think that any kind of new take on let's fight dinosaurs is always welcome, because I mean, the only reason we all keep going to those Jurassic World movies is because we sure do love seeing dinosaurs on the big screen. So I'm excited to see a non-Jurassic World movie that hopefully is a better story with my boy Adam Driver.
Far be it for me to take umbrage with my colleague here, but I would say some of us have to go back because we got to review it. We got to put videos up and get some views. Some of us don't want to go back and see these films with dinosaurs because they're terrible, but you got to do it. This looks great. I saw some people comparing it to Dagobah and one of those shots behind Adam, and I'm like, this is genius. This is genius. But no, I knew nothing about this movie. Okay, nothing. I hadn't heard anything about it.
Yeah.
Or if I saw the title, I was like, that seems like a weird title. I don't really care too much about it. And then when I saw who was involved in it right before I did the trailer reaction, I was like, oh my God, this looks awesome. This looks like a lot of fun. Then watched it, I was like, this looks great. What a great thing to be surprised by a movie because you haven't heard much about in the past. And then hearing who's involved, the people who wrote A Quiet Place, which I really loved, and then seeing the scope of it. It has shades of Planet of the Apes. You know how they go backwards when they think they're going into space?
We know what happens on Planet of the Apes. We get it.
Okay, all right. Some people don't. You know, we have 15-year-olds who watch the show. But also the idea of aliens, right? Ripley and Newt. This is essentially a kind of that variation, which we see in sci-fi sometimes, or in post-apocalyptic stuff like The Road, right? With the Viggo Mortensen and the kid there. So there's a lot there to explore that hits the same beats, but having him fight technology versus prehistoric animals, very interesting. What is that battle going to be like? So I like that idea. And are they actually going to be able to fix their ship? Is he going to sacrifice himself so she can live, or is this going to be a situation where they stay in the past forever and find a way and change the history of Earth in some new way so that it doesn't die? Because imagine they're leaving Earth because something happens that ends up causing Earth to be unlivable anymore. Do they do something to fix that so it doesn't happen in the future? I don't know. But either way, this looks very well directed, got the great amount of scares, the right tension, all of it. So I'm now 100% looking forward to this in March.
Yeah, I do think it sort of fulfills the broken promise that Jurassic Park 3 did when we see these guys packing all these armaments to go to the island and they never end up using them. But 65 comes out the same weekend as Scream 6, March 10th, 2023. So this brings us to our last trailer, our second look at Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, you know, it's easy to forget how we felt watching Into the Spider-Verse the first time. Because, I mean, you know, we know the incredible animation that went along with it. Yeah. But one of the things that just really anchored that story was Miles' relationships with the people around him. His relationship with his uncle, his relationship with his parents, his relationship then with Gwen and Peter, and anchoring this trailer in a conversation with his mom. It was just so effective. And as someone who's not the biggest Spider-Man reader, watching the online reactions when they're in that sort of giant spider hub of people being like, oh my gosh, did you see this? Oh my gosh, did you see that? You can see the PS4 Spider-Man right there. Yeah. You know, Bagman, character little with a brown paper bag over his head. This trailer just did such a phenomenal job of not only getting us excited about the next chapter, but reminding us of why we loved the first one. So, gentlemen, what did we think of this look at Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
It's so perfectly captures why people love Spider-Man as much as they do. As you know, the sarcasm is fun. He's a young kid, so the underdog aspect of it all. But family, it's always family that's there.
It's all about family.
Yeah, exactly. But much better done. The foundational pieces of Spider-Man is that because, you know, you have it in the Peter Parker version where he's constantly hiding himself from Aunt May because he loves Aunt May, doesn't want to put her in danger, doesn't want to cause, and she hates Spider-Man, so he doesn't want to cause any friction. But in this situation, you have that with his dad, but his mom knowing who he is, having that back and forth. What a great way to start this trailer. And you're not going to show you with all this, wow, we're not going to wow you with all this stuff. We're going to show you what's at the foundational core of Miles Morales is his connection to his family and how important that is to him. And his mom there, just like any other mom, talking to their kid as their kid's going off to college or embracing the new path in life. It's like letting you go. It's not always easy. And I want to make sure that you're taken care of. You know, when I did my trailer reaction, you know, I said, like, one of the things my father said before he passed away from cancer is that I know you're in good hands because your friends are going to take care of you. So, you know, and he mostly meant, and he meant it. And so those things, like, you saw that going there. And so seeing that come into this moment, you're like, oh my God, this is genius, you know? So, and then you get to all the Spider-Man and all this kind of stuff. But I think without starting it that way, this trailer wouldn't have been as effective. And the fact that they took the chance to spend like 30 seconds here with this stuff to lay the groundwork for Miles made all the impressive stuff we saw afterwards have even more weight. So for me, it was a beautiful trailer to get you excited for this yet again. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are absolutely right. I think that, the first movie really kind of doubled down on the relationship with Miles and his dad as the kind of the core emotional piece of it. And so it was nice to see Rio, his mom, get to sort of, at least in this trailer, seem to be more of the focal point. It's what Lord and Miller do best.
Yeah.
Whether it be the Lego movie or whether it be the first Spider-Verse movie, anything that they do, there's just always a really, really strong sense of heart at the center of it that grounds it. So that even though the Spider-Verse movie is just a feast of visual input that just kind of overwhelms you, it's the heart at the center of it that makes it all work. If you didn't have that heart, it would just be a bunch of stuff that like looked cool, like Easter egg after Easter egg after Easter egg. But the Easter eggs are just that. They're like the fun addition. They're the icing on top. And so I think this trailer, to your guys' point, starting with Miles and Rio having that talk, kind of setting the stage for, you trust who you are, do the right thing, your friends will always be there for you, and then kind of opening it up to just like Easter Egg City with every fucking Spider-Man that you could possibly imagine in this trailer, and that's not even half of what we're probably going to end up seeing.
Right.
And then kind of giving us a little bit of a mystery, like some shit's going down in the multiverse, and whatever it is, Spider-Man 2099 and Miles seem to not have be on the same page on how to handle it. Yeah. So this idea that we're all super excited, even with the post-credit sequence at the end of Spider-Verse, kind of seeing Spider-Man 2099, knowing that Oscar Isaac was going to kind of be in the big in the new movie, and that was going to be a big piece of it. Yeah. But the little tidbits we get, I mean, we see a moment of him sort of looking at a picture of him and what looks like his daughter. Even though I think in the comics he had a son, but like looks like he's looking at his daughter. There seems to be like a lot at stake for him. Like it seems like we're going to get a lot of information on his backstory that is going to lead to him deciding something has to go down a certain way. And that moment when Gwen is like, we're supposed to be the good guys, and he's like, we are the good guys, and then he just kind of like is like in a fight with Miles and pulverizes him to the ground. Like, I'm engaged. Like right off the bat, obviously we all knew we were going to go see this movie. Obviously we're all excited about this movie. We knew it was going to look amazing. It absolutely delivers on that in the trailer. But like story-wise, like it's compelling. Like I am on board for wherever this is going.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
What are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd say I talked about it at the beginning.
Okay.
Just grounding that conversation with his mom. Like I thought that was really, really, really effective. And yeah, I mean, not knowing a ton about Spider-Man 2099, other than that his name is Miguel O'Hara. I mean, I think, the cast that is returning, being supported by not just Oscar Isaac, but Issa Rae as Jessica Drew. I mean, I think it's really, really exciting. And so, yeah.
I mean,
look, it looks so great.
The designs look fantastic. Yeah. And like I said, I've mentioned on the show, I saw the 20 minutes of it at CinemaCon, and there were animatics, but even the animatics, you were just like, this is going to be awesome, and the Miguel Miles thing carries through. So it is not just an occasional scene. It feels like a real battle here. And I love that Gwen says we're supposed to be the good guys, because she's probably in the middle of this, figuring out which way she wants to go with this whole thing, especially because she might be the one that, it seems from the trailer, she's the one that asks Miles to come on this adventure. So very, very interesting.
And at the core of it, I mean, it's like what made Miles so great in the first movie was, do I really have what it takes to be Spider-Man? And this whole idea of the first movie, which is, we can all be Spider-Man. Like anyone can be under the mask. And then to put him into this situation where like he basically steps into the Citadel of Ricks, but with spiders, and there's Spider-Man, and there's all of these spider people that ostensibly I think is setting it up to be maybe more experienced than him, know more than him, whatever. Right. And it's that moment where that something is wrong, that you like he's gonna have to take a stand against what looks like a whole fuck lot of Spider-Man and women. So it's going to be really interesting to see what that is. And I think as far as a hero's journey and what makes Spider-Man Spider-Man, to your point, John, it looks like it's going to deliver. I can't fucking wait.
Yeah.
Well, and as you both had already mentioned, like the fact that, this is what they're giving us in the trailer. Like we haven't even seen, or at least in this trailer, like we haven't seen Jason Schwartzman's the Spot yet, who is supposed to be the villain through 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of the Spider-Verse still to be revealed, and we will find out everything on June 2nd, 2023.
Sweet till Scarlet Witch shows up and starts killing all the Spider-Man. Anyway, all right, let's take a break. We'll jump into our main topic here. We're just talking about all the madness going on in DC right now, right after this. I hear Gunn hates Cap. Anyway, we're going to get into everything going on here. So much madness has happened over the last few days. The big report that was dropped last week by The Hollywood Reporter that revealed from their sources, and they cited their sources, that they heard that Patty Jenkins had walked off Wonder Woman 3 because they didn't like the treatment. She came back with a second treatment and they didn't like it at that. And then she walked away from it. Heard that Henry Cavill's Superman or Man of Steel 2 was not going to happen. The Black Adam sequel was not going to happen. And that everything is up in the air and they're still figuring it out what they're going to do. But Batman is its own thing. Joker is its own thing. Well, James Gunn responded to this and said, some of that report is true, some of that report is not true, and the rest of stuff is in the air. And then over the weekend, some stuff came out that James Gunn had an issue with Henry Cavill, and that was out. And then James Gunn went into Twitter and actually went back and forth with people about this whole thing, saying it's not true because he was celebrating the 44th anniversary of Richard Donner's Superman coming out. You believe a man can fly, and he went back on people on this and said Superman's really important, debunked any issues he might have with Henry Cavill. But then Patty Jenkins came out with a statement to kind of defend herself a little bit. I'm not going to read all of it, just say basically that she said, I originally left Rogue Squadron after a long and productive development process when it became clear it couldn't happen soon enough, and I did not want to delay Wonder Woman 3 any further. When I did, Lucasfilm asked me to consider coming back to Rogue Squadron after Wonder Woman 3, which I was honored to do so. So I agreed. And she said she's still under that deal. And she says when there started being backlash about Wonder Woman 3 not happening, the attractive clickbait false story that it was me that killed it or walked away started to spread. This is simply not true. I never walked away. I was open to considering anything asked of me. It was my understanding there was nothing I could do to move anything forward at this time. DC is obviously buried in changes they are having to make. So I understand these decisions are difficult right now. And as if that wasn't enough, James Gunn had to address a new report that came out from Variety. This is today. A well-placed source tells Variety that James Gunn and Peter Safran are exploring the possibility of incorporating Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson's Batman into their wider DC universe. And James Gunn responded here, there are a few reporters I love more than Adam B. Very, truly a good guy. But in this case, he needs to get a new source as this is entirely untrue. So I go to our resident DC expert, Michael Vogel, to really hash this whole thing out and give us his opinions on what you think is happening. Because I tweeted all this out and I said, we've seen sources lie for their own reasons, and we've also seen creatives kind of fudge the truth for their own brand saving. So what do you think is happening here, Michael? Can you disseminate the truth from all of this being shot around you right now?
I don't believe anybody.
That's
I think
a really smart way to approach this.
Well, because here's the thing. Like, Twitter's a weird thing. We live in a world where
that's the understatement of the year, man.
It's the understatement of the year. Twitter's weird, y'all. We live in this world where we expect to be told everything. That we expect, there's this creators and executives and actors and writers, like they owe us. You need to be truthful to us.
Good point. Yeah.
And they don't. There's shit going on. This is their jobs. Yeah. So I don't necessarily believe everything that Patty Jenkins says. I don't necessarily believe James Gunn when he says that's not true. We're not considering Matt Reeves. They would be dumb if they weren't considering making Robert Pattinson's Batman a part of the bigger DC. Like basically what it seems like is, reading between the lines, I think that there's definitely a discussion being had to wipe the slate clean. Mm-hmm. I think that they have these movies coming out. that we know are coming out. And I think they're like, look, we're going to release these movies. And I think what it really boils down to, and I could be 100% wrong on this, but they've got Flashpoint coming out, or they've got the Flash movie coming out. They've got Aquaman 2 coming out. They got the Shazam movie coming out. They've got Blue Beetle coming out. And I think that if they came out today and said, we're wiping the slate clean and we're recasting everything and we're starting from ground zero.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying they're 100% sure they're going to do that, but if they were going to do that, they don't want us to know that right now.
Right.
Because why would we go see these movies?
They'd be lame duck films. They'd be lame
you have an entire slate of lame duck films. So you don't want to say that now. But when Patty Jenkins says, my understanding was there was nothing I could do, that may be because they're like, look, Gal's not going to be Wonder Woman anymore. Like, we need to rethink this whole thing.
Yeah.
Conversely, the opposite could be true. That James Gunn and the gang is like, look, we love Gal, we love Momoa, here's the people we want to keep and we have a plan for it. And then she turned in her Wonder Woman 3 script and like, look, Wonder Woman 2 is not a good movie. So the idea that Patty Jenkins turned in a treatment and they were like, look, we're really concerned because the last movie wasn't what we all wanted it to be, and we have a lot of thoughts and we want to do this, and maybe she didn't want to deal with their thoughts and she was like, fuck it, I'm walking, but she doesn't want to say that to the world and she doesn't owe us that explanation. So it could be any of those things, but I think that really what's at the core now is, and I think that this is and this is, for all that you're like, it's all crazy, it is crazy right now, but it's crazy in a way that like, I think it needs to happen. This is like when your whole family is all mad about shit that you've been holding on to for 25 years and nobody brings it up. And then you have that one Christmas dinner where everybody shows up and like the shit flies and you're like, that was the worst Christmas dinner ever. But like everybody had to say it. Like from this point forward, the family can move on because you had that shitty Christmas.
At least you hope.
We are having, DC and Warner Brothers are having their shitty Christmas right now.
So you're saying this is the Almost Famous plane ride where everyone's just going to say their shit because they're going to die. Anyway.
It's absolutely that. Because some stuff, and James, I think the truest thing is the statement that James Gunn made when he came out that said, look, not everyone's going to be happy with the decisions we make. Yeah. Because, the Henry Cavill, maybe he thinks Henry Cavill's a great guy. Maybe he thinks Henry Cavill's a good Superman. But if the bigger decision is to catch up to Marvel, we got to wipe the slate fucking clean. Mm-hmm. And that means no Henry Cavill, no Ben Affleck, no Gal, no Momoa. We're starting from scratch. Yeah. And that's a hard decision to make. And people will get super pissed off about it. And all the Snyder fans will say it's just because Gunn hates Snyder. And like everyone is going to throw all these accusations around. But completely honestly, that might be the smartest thing. Yeah. So I think that what they're trying to do and what James Gunn is what everyone is trying to do is just keep a fucking lid on it because they don't know.
I think that's the number one thing it seems like. Yeah, Mike.
It's leaking out. So so somebody at Warner Brothers, some assistant is looking at the emails and the emails are like, guys, maybe we got to talk to Reeves and Pattinson because that's the most successful thing we've got. Yeah. So maybe we build out from there. Maybe that Gotham City is our Gotham City, and then we start adding all the new characters and recast everybody. And that assistant is the source, calls Variety, and Variety says that. And Gunn is like, fuck, we don't want anyone. We haven't even decided if we're doing that. We don't want anyone to know that. No, find a new source. That's not true. Right. So I mean, I think that's what's really happening is as they are throwing things against the wall, and either way is a hard decision. Mm-hmm. Like it's a hard decision to figure out what the fuck to do with the mess that it is if you want to keep pieces of it. And it's a harder decision to say we're wiping. I mean, there's a chance that, and I mean, I don't think it'll come to this, but there's a chance James Gunn comes out and says, guys, we're not doing a Peacemaker season 2. Yeah. Like I love it. And obviously I had all these plans, but the bigger thing is we need to reboot this entire universe. So I don't get to do, that could be. So I don't know what it's going to be, but I'm 90% sure that what they're doing right now is damage control because they haven't made a decision and they don't want all of these announcements coming out until all of them, from Zaslav down, and everybody is like, okay, this is the plan.
Yeah. When you're looking into the water, into the sea, and you see the sharks around and you're like, okay, this looks dangerous, but I think the cage is going to be good. And they lower you into the fucking sea. And then you really see the sharks up close and feel the slamming into the cage. This is where Gunn is now. I'm sure Gunn was like, I can handle this, Peter Sapp. We can do this. We're good. But already there's like fires all over the place. And we didn't even mention the accusations that Dwayne Johnson as floated some story that was bullshit about the finances around Black Adam and making money, not money. That's another
That part I believe. That one's true.
I do believe that as well. And this is really damaging The Rock's brand in a lot of ways, in my opinion, which is a shame to see. But it's yet another fire that, Gunn is having to run around. And I don't really take a lot of faith of him going to Twitter. I really don't like that. Some people are like, oh, it's good that he's addressing these things straight up. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not going to go down into the pit and punch with people with 7 followers and go back at them about it. Doesn't make any sense. You don't punch down. That doesn't make it. Look, I hate it when I do it, and I'm nowhere near James Gunn status. So it doesn't make any sense for him to do that. It shows a little bit of a weakness here, and I'm just concerned now what the next path is, because Shannon, either they wipe it clean, take all the hits, and it does look bad if James takes care of his characters and no one else's. That can look bad to other directors for sure. So Michael might be right. Like, fucking kill it all. We're going to start all over again with new actors playing these characters. That way everybody's on a level playing field, and we're going to build from here. But nothing guarantees the fact that he's going to finish his 10-year plan. There's nothing in the DC history that makes you believe he's going to be able to finish his 10-year plan. So what do you think about this? All this stuff that's going on here and buzzing around from the accusations and the sources and James Gunn and the creatives?
I mean, whatever happens, it's going to be a while before we find anything out. So,
Great point.
People online working themselves up into a tizzy. It's like,
Pace yourselves, guys. Pace.
Yeah, they are not going to, this is not a sprint. I mean, this is a marathon. Because Warner Brothers isn't going to say anything. My guess would be until after Aquaman's out, and that's next December.
Yeah, December. Yeah,
because as you all put, I mean, the moment that you start talking about the future that potentially does not include any of the players that are currently involved, you get a, why do we care about this? I mean, with the 4 movies that they have coming out, if you want to factor in marketing costs for what they're going to have to do, plus their production budget, that's $1 billion roundabout. If you have a 200 million plus Flash movie, a 200 million plus Aquaman movie, I think Shazam and Blue Beetle were probably cheaper. But again, you factor in all the marketing that you're going to have to do to hopefully make these movies turn a profit. This is still a lot of money that you're spending. Yeah. So the fact that, they don't want to say anything until anything's been decided, because nothing's been decided at this point. Like it seems like right now, and Vogel can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the discussion, if they have pitched their plan yet, I don't know if they have, but this is a discussion between 3 individuals right now. That it's Gunn, Safran, and Zaslav. And a lot can happen in 10 years. I mean, Warner Brothers could be part of another merger. Zaslav could be out. Yeah. Also, when you bring on creatives, because James Gunn can't do everything, you bring on other creatives, they're coming with their ideas. Things are going to change. So you find out that, I mean, like the whole Patty Jenkins thing, I feel like it's a little Star Wars from your point of view issue. That it's like, from her point of view, like there was nothing she could do. From Warner Brothers' point of view, it could have been like, no, we just wanted to work on this.
Maybe Patty felt what you're doing is a betrayal to what I wanted to create and what I want to do. So there's nothing more I can do here. I don't want to stick around to have you guys keep, twisting it in a certain way that I don't want to see it go. That's very possible. Yeah.
And then the whole Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson thing, like I think Vogel's right. I think you look at your successes that are new, and it's
with young actors.
It would be foolish not to consider that. That's not to say that it's the answer, but it would be it would not be prudent to just sort of dismiss it. But then you have to get Matt Reeves on board. Yeah. You have to get Robert Pattinson. Like there are so many factors that have to be considered right now, and nothing has been decided. And whatever is decided in a week or two, that's going to change too. I mean,
and
that's just the nature of the business. The last thing you want with so much pressure on them is to get into a position like Paramount did with Star Trek. Like the last thing you want is for DC to come out and say, "Oh, we think we are gonna have Pattinson and Reeves be the anchor for our new universe," and have Pattinson and Reeves come out and go, "Well, this is the first we're hearing of this shit."
Like that's not gonna go well. I mean, look, but I do think it does present though. I mean, as all the rumors are flying and everyone's talking, and there does seem to be a lot of drams.
Mhm.
I think that it brings up the thing that we said when this was announced. Saffron aside, it's the issue of it's a good thing that Kevin Feige is not a director.
Yes.
And James Gunn being a director
Yeah.
makes this a little bit messier. It's dicier. Like when you are a director, even a high-level director, answering to the studio is something it's just a part of life. Like that's just a part of how things work. When you're a director and you go into a room and your fellow director is sitting there and says, well, here's what I think of your movie.
Mhm.
That gets a little weird. Like
Well,
it's just a little dicey.
Especially if you're a female director with a very proud female character and you have someone like James Gunn and James Gunn, not that James Gunn's done anything wrong, but like it's a male director and you're like, I don't know if I like where you want to take my character. I don't know if I like where you want to take Wonder Woman. I think you're taking away some of the stuff that I think people do connect and to gravitate to. So there's all of that element as well. It's a part of the mix. What you're talking about too, Mikey. Yeah. I mean, this idea of a director running things is not easy. And certainly you're going to find people who are going to have issues. But I think starting, and it doesn't have the Zachary Levi's out there at conventions going, well, he's my friend and he better keep me in the movie or he's not my friend anymore. That doesn't help.
That was weird.
Either.
That was weird.
That was very weird, wasn't it? Because I mean,
Like-
look, it's a nice movie. It's not a fucking great movie. And I don't think he's that good of a Shazam. So moving on from him, I would be happy. A Kingdom Come Shazam is my Shazam, but that's my own personal opinion. But this idea that he's going to essentially emotionally blackmail him on stage at a convention, that tells me there's issues there too.
Yeah, you sent that clip of Zach Levi, and like it started off, he's like, "Oh, you guys are asking me, well, Peter Safran was a producer on this, and James Gunn is my friend, and this is," and I was like, "All right," so he's giving like a typical actory, like, so well, you never know what's gonna happen, but I mean, I feel like they've got the best intentions, and then he was like, "And if they don't keep me, they're not my friend," and I was like, okay, well, that was a thing that you said. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I like I've said, like I don't particularly like the Aquaman movie,
Right.
but I think Momoa is maybe not the way that I would envision Aquaman, but I think he's a very fun and compelling Aquaman. I think Gal is, despite that Wonder Woman 84 is not great. I think Gal is a great Wonder Woman.
Yes.
I think that there are a lot of great. I am excited about the Michael Keaton of it all. I think that's super cool. Like I think that there's a lot, as we've said. I think Margot Robbie is a fucking fantastic Harley Quinn. Like I think there's a lot of good buried in a lot of the mess that is DC. But I got to be honest, and I don't know for sure that they are. I'm sure they're considering this. I don't know that this will actually ever happen or that they'll actually pull this trigger because this is a big trigger to pull.
Yeah.
But with the exception of the Blue Beetle movie, I would be kind of excited if they said, we're wiping the slate clean.
Yeah, I agree with you. Me too. Because it could open the door to a different approach and at least a concrete approach. And just like Kathleen Kennedy did with Star Wars, now some of you might get upset about that. She said, you know what? All that other shit is bullshit. This is canon. Everything else is legends and enjoy reading it. It's got nothing to do with what we're doing. We're going to pick when it's right, pulling some stuff out of legends.
And by the way,
but it's all one thing. So we got you. Relax.
And by the way, to that point, to like, given that we live in the era of multiverses, you could wipe the slate totally clean and start with an entire new cast of characters, and 4 movies in, have fucking Gal, Cavill, Affleck, and Momoa show up from another universe.
Yeah.
Like the possibilities really are endless. But I think, and a year ago I wouldn't have thought this, but I think all DC fans, to a degree, if they're being honest, even the Snyder guys and girls who are like obsessed with the Snyder universe and like that, I think all of us have been so beat up by what goes on. Whether you're like me and the Snyder stuff was never for you, but the other stuff that they did, some highs like the Joker and the Batman and when Wonder Woman won, but like I think we're also tired of just not knowing and being so confused that I think if they came out and said, here's the plan, guys, after this next year, everything is new.
Yeah.
It's a brand new DC universe, brand new casting. We're casting young up-and-coming actors in all of these roles. We've got a Superman movie in 2025, a Batman movie in 2026, a Wonder Woman movie in 27, and a full Justice League with everybody. Like, I think we would all be like, thank fucking God. Great. Give it to us.
Right. Shannon, anything else on this?
I mean, I know it's kind of sad to say goodbye to the elements that were working.
Yeah.
But at some point, I mean, much like in the comics, every few years, they just, as you guys said, wipe the slate clean and start over. Maybe that is maybe that's the best long-term solution. And if they're able to find a way to hold on to some of those choices that did work better, fantastic. But again, at this point, man, we don't know.
Yeah.
I think Comic-Con 2024, maybe that's when, or if they bring back DC Fandom in 2024, that's when they'll kind of like, okay, this is what we're doing. And it would be great if there were no leaks, like if when they have this big announcement event, if they do, they might not want to do the Marvel thing because that has bit them in the butt in the past. But, if they do this big announcement, if it is sort of, for us, for the fans, sort of a true surprise.
Yeah.
To be like, hey, tomorrow we start shooting this. Next month we're shooting this. At the end of the year we'll be shooting this. Like the shot of adrenaline, geeky adrenaline that would give everybody, even for the folks that are sad to say goodbye, potentially say goodbye to Cavill, Gal, and Momoa. That would still be exciting because it's like, oh, okay, so this is like when you did the New 52 or when you did Rebirth. I mean, this is like we're starting over.
But you keep Pattinson, I feel like, because he's young.
I mean, there would be. This is why these discussions are bananas.
I know, you're right.
Even if you go, guys, we're gonna wipe the slate clean, and you're like, well, but what about the Batman? Well, the Batman's great, so we're keeping the Batman. And that's why there's probably like, well, is the Batman part of the new thing? Because since it was detached, maybe it is. Okay, let's do that. Well, what about the Joker? Because we got the sequel coming. Fuck, man. Like that's literally what's happening at Warner Brothers right now. The more we talk about it, though, I feel like when it comes to the DC universe, I feel like an old nerd in a rocking chair just going like, I'm so tired. I'm just tired. It just wears me down.
Just put on Richard Donner's Superman. Let me go to sleep.
Do you all remember that Comic-Con? I mean, and again, not to compare it to Marvel, but it's the most apt comparison. When they announced Phase 4. There were rumors, but then when they said Eternals, when they said Shang-Chi, when they brought out Mahershala Ali at the end for Blade, like that was so like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And even though not everything turned out the way we wanted, the energy of that moment, the hope was there.
Yeah. Well, so we talked about like the weirdness of James Gunn. I know we're wrapping up, but I just I'll say this. We talked about the weirdness of James Gunn being a director and how that does lend itself to potentially being an awkward thing with other directors coming in to pitch their projects. But here's one of the benefits of James Gunn, and Shannon, I think, kind of nailed it. James Gunn just spent the past 10 years working with Feige very closely.
Yeah, good point.
He's been in the rooms having these big conversations. He had to have discussions with the Russos about how the Guardians were going to be treated in Infinity. So he's been in those rooms. He's been at the Marvel panels. I mean, he was at the last Marvel panel where they showed Guardians Volume 3 footage and they had this really tearful kind of moment. So he's been a little bit behind the scenes and seen how it works. So him coming over, he probably didn't say exactly what Shannon said, but I'm sure when he's talking to Zaslav and everybody at Warner Brothers, he's like, look, guys, I've been there when Marvel's made the announcements and has surprised the fans and has taken some bold choices. And look, their slate that they announced never stays exactly the same. They shift things around, movies get flipped, something gets pushed. Like, there's room for that, but they deliver on their promise.
Yeah.
And DC and Warner Brothers have consistently not delivered on their promise. So I think that selling everybody that to do what Marvel does, you need to have a plan and you need to more or less stick to that plan, whatever that plan is.
Yeah.
I'm sure that that's part of what got him this position.
I think another part of this, and like I said, we are up. Another part of this is that Feige picks his directors. Gunn didn't pick Patty. Gunn didn't pick Reeves. Like there's a thing where if he's going to wipe the slate clean, he may have to wipe the slate clean across the board. And it's Gunn who picks the directors, and the directors come in knowing they're going to work for James Gunn, knowing that impressing him, having a good relationship with him, having a good pitch for him, what his style and tastes are. They're going to hone their pitches to fit that so they can be selected. And if they are selected, they know the buck stops with James Gunn. So James Gunn gets his people in the positions, just like any sports team. You hire a new general manager, they want to wipe the slate clean, pick their own coaches, pick their own players. That's how it works, you know.
Do you think Peter Safran is like sitting there right now being like, I'm in the room too, guys?
No, I think Peter's going, leave me the fuck on out of this shit. I want to relax. James, you deal with it, you know. But James, stay off Twitter, man. Stay off. You don't it lowers you. You don't see Feige going at people on Twitter. There's a thing here, man. There's a hierarchy. It's smarter for have one of your assistants do it, man. Just get a burner phone or something, for God's sake. Anyway, all right. So we'll see what happens. I think you guys are both. We're not gonna know shit for years. We're just like right now. Let it like kind of figure it out, and then boom, they'll make the announcements when it's time to make the announcements. But this is all just regular conversation that they're having to try to figure out what to do to make it better. I think that's the intention, and we have to give them the benefit of the doubt, I believe. All right, let's wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of the Geek Buddies. We appreciate it madly. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at @Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MK2. And if you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at the Rocha Says.
Mikey?
Well, if you know what's happening over at DC and Warner Brothers, you are a hell of a lot smarter than we are. But for everybody else who enjoys these conversations, here's what you can do to help us keep having these conversations. You can hit that like button below, subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page over here, check out all the amazing content he's got going on. Absolutely leave your comments. What do you think's going on at Warner Brothers in DC? What movies are you excited about coming up? And more importantly, what is your favorite dish at the James Cameron restaurant that John spoke so highly of? Let us know in the comments below. If you are listening to us on a podcast, leave some stars, leave some comments. It helps us go up in the rankings. And as always, the best thing that you can do is retweet this video, post it to your socials, send it to your friends, tell them to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
There you go. I'll take the Abyss fish salad, the salmon salad, I think. All right. And thank you all so much. We love you madly. Please make sure you do all of that and look for more of our content coming out later this week as well. And we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode of the
Geek
Buddies!
One more thing. Big shout out to carbonhealth.com who continues to power and sponsor us. Go to carbonhealth.com and download that app. And we'll see you next time. Hey!